Serenbe is a place where people live, work, learn, and play in celebration of life's beauty. And we're here to share the stories that connect residents and guests to each other and to nature. This is Serenbe Stories. On today's episode, we're talking with Chef Nicolas Bour, who was at the Farmhouse during its early years nearly a decade ago before opening the famed Iris restaurant in Atlanta. He has worked in restaurants across the country and even cooked for President Barack Obama for the first inaugural gala. Chef Nick is now back at Serenbe as the executive chef and VP of food and beverage over all of Serenbe's restaurants. We'll talk to him about his journey back to Serenbe, his deep relationship and passion for fresh food, and the future of culinary in Chattahoochee Hills. But first, Serenbe Stories is brought to you by The Inn at Serenbe. The Inn is nestled in the rolling countryside of bucolic Serenbe, where guests can walk on the 15 miles of trails through preserved forest land, the wildflower meadow, and the animal village. You can relax by the pool, hot tub, or in rocking chairs on wraparound porch. Play on the croquet lawn, swings, and in-ground trampolines. Connect with nature and each other, all while staying in luxurious rooms on the Inn grounds or within the community of Serenbe. Book your stay today at serenbeinn.com. Today, we are back with Steve Nygren. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Monica.
And a special guest, Chef Nicolas Bour, is with us today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Steve.
Chef Nick is our executive chef here at Serenbe. He kind of, I would say, the Farmhouse restaurant is his sort of baby, if you will, right? This is not Chef Nick's first time at Serenbe. It's his return to Serenbe, and we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But wanted to give you a little bit of background on him. He has been over 20 years in the restaurant industry. For those of you listening in Atlanta, he was a pioneer in East Atlanta with his Iris restaurant, which I believe there was there for about over 5 years. He has cooked all over the country and also cooked for celebrities such as Robert De Niro. President Obama, I believe you did his first inauguration. Is that correct?
I did that, and I cooked for his wife and daughters as well.
Oh, I love that. I want to hear all about that.
That was actually the most special part of it.
Oh, I like that. Most recently, you came from... It wasn't Humphreys in San Diego. It was from Hawaii.
Yeah, I did consulting on a hotel there, which was formerly known as the Pac Beach. It's now the Alohalani Resort, and that was in conjunction with Chef Morimoto.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to Serenbe Stories, and I want to hear your Serenbe stories, Nick.
Well, there's some of them I can't really tell you, but
we might be able to pull them out of you.
You know, I tell everybody. The day I left here the first time, I knew immediately that I had made a terrible mistake because you never, they say that you don't miss the water until the well's empty. But, that being said, I think the return was extra special because of that.
Okay, well, let's dig into it a little bit.
Well, you did all sorts of things while you were gone. Experiences. You found a wife.
That's true.
I mean, look at her.
Yeah, she just happened
had a baby.
Had a baby. I mean, I probably wouldn't have been stable enough to do what I'm doing now back then because I was a young man. I was single and, I had I loved food. I've always loved cooking, but I had a lot of extracurricular activities that I enjoyed. And I still like a glass of wine now and then, but nothing like I used to.
Okay.
So, a good chef is someone who's passionate about everything in life, but sometimes young passion can get kind of wild. So that's so we love having you back with a wife and now settled. You can focus all that passion right into your food.
Yeah, it's been such an incredible journey for me. And just I'll never forget the day I came back from it was kind of an impromptu interview and I saw you on the steps of the hill and it was really emotional for me. I'll never forget that. It was really, one thing, you haven't aged. Which I wanted to know that secret immediately. But I think that I believe in fate and I believe in people that take care of each other. And I think that this is really just a perfect scenario for me to finish out my days as the chef of the retirement community.
I know we joke that you'll be cutting the crusts off of our PB&Js.
That's right.
So tell me, I always like to know the first time that you met Steve Nygren, how did you guys stumble upon each other?
Well, that's interesting. I was, speaking of being single, I was dating a young lady in Atlanta who was friends with Garni. They went to Woodward together. And she brought me out here just for a visit to Serenbe. And Serenbe was really just beginning back then. And it was, driving out to the country, and I was like, what is this place? So where are you taking me? It's really remote. And then I saw that there was something going on here that was unlike anything else I'd ever seen. Fortunately or unfortunately, Iris was coming to an end at that point, and I thought that this might be a good fit for me. And Steve was kind enough to allow me to kind of be a part of the awakening of this neighborhood. To come back here now and see what's been done, I've missed so much.
Well, we were so thrilled to have someone of Nick's talent and the reputation of the food at his restaurant was just incredible. And the idea that he was at a point in his life that he was looking for something different, we were honored.
I was as well. Steve, you're a legend in the industry, and I knew, I knew going into this that I was going to go to work for somebody who had a lot of experience, not necessarily all success either. We've all had our ups and downs. Steve does it with grace, unlike a lot of chefs. And I felt that kind of family bond, from him and Garni and the rest of the family. And now I feel like I'm actually, in a weird kind of way, part of the family. I look to Steve as kind of a father figure. I'm not gonna lie. But it's the kindness and honesty that I really appreciate. And if there's something going down, I want to know about it, and they're not afraid to let me know. And that's, candor is really a great part of success.
And
you are part of the family.
Thank you, sir. I really enjoy it. I love it.
And did you come back, or when you were first here, was that 04, 05, early days? Were you at the Farmhouse, the Daisy? Were you working a little bit of both?
I had the honor to meet. I've always been a fan of Angie Mosier's, and then I walked into the Daisy, and there she was. Putting up a coconut cake, which she's pretty famous for. And then I've met her husband, Johnny, who is just an incredible person, an artist, a musician, played with, Colonel Bruce Hampton and a bunch of people. I actually found his old toolbox out behind the old shed there the other day, and it looked like it was an archaeological find. But so that was my first thing. And when I saw the building itself, it was so unique. And then I saw LEED certification. I'm like, somebody's building LEED certified buildings in the middle of what is now Chattahoochee Hills. And I was immediately wondering to myself, how can I get in here? And it worked out. Angie and Johnny decided to move on, and Steve gave me the go ahead to take over the Daisy. And I made some crazy decisions in that place. I started opening it up at night for bistro, and everybody's like, what are you doing? It's a bake shop. And I remember John Graham, who's one of our longest term residents, said, am I having Spätzle at the Blue Eyed Daisy? I said, yes, sir, you are. So
it was transitional. Here it was the only thing in town. So it went from breakfast in the morning to candles at night, and Nick's incredible food. And it was everything about. And people started driving here for dinner.
Did you have different favorites or specials, or do you make it every night, all seven?
I made it with whatever I had in the cooler, and I managed to. That's one thing I've never been told is kind of what to do and what not to do. It's what do you feel like doing? And it just kind of took on a life of its own in some ways. And it became, the Daisy's always been kind of the center of town, a meeting place. I pictured myself as like this old guy on the middle of the country welcoming people in that were neighbors. And it really just was really special. I'll never forget it. And it's actually still the same. And coming back here has been, to reunite with all these folks is just it's a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity for me.
Right.
Well, truly, you are part of people's hearts, through the food, but then your personality. And tell them about the welcome back party that was thrown by the residents who remembered you from when you were here before.
Well, it was crazy. It was like returning home from a deployment somewhere or something. But, one of our, I guess it was Pepper, who's, also one of those people who was here back in those times, said, hey, I'm having a little get together. And I was like, a little get together. Okay, cool. I thought it was going to be 3 or 4 people. And I get over to his house, and it's a margarita machine and a big buffet. And there's it was 100 people, I think.
That's right. To welcome you back.
And to welcome me back. And I don't know, something about me. I was like, do I really deserve this? So it's little things like that are so special, as a chef who's, spent so many years in the kitchen, it's to be recognized in any kind of, other than a complaint on Yelp or something, is really, really wonderful. And it's really, I don't know what the word would be. It's a vindication of a lot of other things that have been in the past, because not every situation is like this. I have been literally searching for that since I left here the first time. And when things are so elusive and you don't get them, it can be hard, until I married Ebony and we had our daughter Mia. Really, life was kind of empty. But now, I still don't know if I deserve all this. It's hard to put my hands around.
You do.
And I told Steve the other day, and I see him with people around, little groups of people. And I think I told you one day over by One Motto, I said, Steve, the accessibility that you give to people for somebody who's done what you've done is really, there's nothing like it. The fact that I can just walk up to you and say, hey, how's it going? It's what's going on. And you actually care enough to, you give tours to total strangers, if you'll never see them again or not. It's really magical. That's the only way.
And we'll pretend Steve's not here now, but I think you're right. I think that, the fact that, what developer lives in their development, which that actually I created this place and I'm now choosing to live here with my family, completely opening yourself up for anybody walking onto the street.
And cares.
Yeah, cares.
Most developers, they buy a piece of land they know nothing about. They slap up some buildings without, with not worrying about the environment and, the ancillary things that go along with forming a community, and just completely embrace that. There's nothing else like it.
Right.
You can go ahead and try to show me something. It's never going to be like this, at least not around.
Right. So let's talk about the different places that you were in while you were in your years in the wilderness, seeking for Serenbe again.
Oh. Well,
you popped all you had some fun adventures. So tell us a little bit about where you were. What you did.
I got lured away by money, and that's really what young chefs care the most about: is if I'm getting paid enough, or is it this or that, and. I had an opportunity to go to, I used to work for Intercontinental Hotels before I came here, when I left them to open Iris.
Okay.
And then, not having the structure and the benefits and the insurance and the vacation and the big bonus and all this nonsense that is truly nonsense at this point. I decided that they would lure me back to them, and I would go to Washington, D.C., to take over a very historic hotel, the Willard. It was an exciting time. We knew Obama was going to win. It was interesting because I had to do 2 different amenities during the election, one in case the other guy I'm not going to mention, and then Obama, and we were like, hopefully we do some Chicago food. So we got to do that. I cooked for Michelle and the kids. Just to look at them now, they're all grown up. I remember them when they were my daughter's age, and they were so precious. And it was really exciting until winter. And then Washington, D.C. is brutal in the winter.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I would walk. I swear the wind would shift every day to the direction of my face as I walked. And it's like it's literally tunnels of air through that city. It's a beautiful town. The architecture's the architecture's wonderful. It feels very European.
Unfortunately, it's a beautiful hotel.
It's a beautiful hotel. The history of that place, that's literally where the word lobbyist came from, was from the lobby. That's where Martin Luther King finished the Have a Dream speech. I cooked for literally almost every person I've ever wanted to meet while I was there, including Carla Bruni, the president's wife of France.
Oh, yeah.
She shook my hand. I couldn't speak.
I bet.
She's a beautiful lady.
She is. And a beautiful singer.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, that was the time when we all suffered, right? That was when the downturn in the economy came. And the Willard Room, the restaurant, had been open for just over 50 years. And the terrible news was they were going to close it.
Oh, no.
So, I got to close the Willard Room. It's kind of, and my boss was like, you know what? We're going to have to send you to Miami. And I said, oh, really? In January? Perfect. So that's what I did. And then my wife now and I reconnected after 16 years.
Okay.
She said, hey, do you want to, get back together and date? And I said, absolutely not. But I'll marry you tomorrow. And that was it. We got married literally 3 days later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us more of that story. Go back 16 years.
16 years ago, my now wife was my girlfriend.
Okay.
She was living, I met her in Savannah. I was working at Elizabeth on 37th, which is still a really great restaurant and a beautiful home. And she went to SCAD. She was a metals and jewelry major who had aspirations to move to New York City, as everybody at that age. And I really like Savannah a lot. It's a very enchanting kind of place, really low key. New York City is a rat race. So she said, I'm going to New York and you're coming with me. I said, have fun. I'm not going. And she left. You know,
she called your bluff.
She did. I mean, I definitely lost that one. And we lost, I would say, touch for a number of years. And then I still loved her. And I married somebody else and still loved my wife now. But, that happens.
Yeah.
And September 11th, I called her, see if she was okay and whatnot. And we decided to just, be friends. And then over the years, we would see. She came to visit me in Washington, D.C. while I was there. And I slept like this in my bed with her on. She's like, Nicholas, you didn't even try to kiss me. But, I was trying to be a gentleman. And there was something there still. But I was still, wild a little bit. And I thought to myself, I should probably settle down. So we got married in the courthouse, Miami, by a Haitian guy. He was amazing. And Christmas Eve, which this week is my anniversary,
happy anniversary
coming up. And she said, well, now you're going to move to New York.
Oh, uh-oh.
And I said, I guess I'll give it a shot. I guess I'll give it a shot. So I landed a terrible job. Just kidding. I ended up becoming the exec sous chef at the famous Plaza Hotel.
Yes.
Which sounds wonderful. But New York is a rat race. It never changed. And I moved up there, lived the city life there, and for about a year. And then I started saying, again, it's winter. So, I don't know, fate brought me a job in California, San Diego, and the rest is history. I went out there, opened 3 restaurants, had my daughter. I didn't have her. But then I think I really started thinking back about Atlanta. And that was, 7 years in California. Cost of living is extremely high. We were living in a very, very nice town, Del Mar area.
Gorgeous.
I started thinking about my daughter and how she was going to have to go to high school with kids that showed up in a limousine that were driving Porsches when they're 16, that whole thing. And I didn't want her to have to deal with that. So I said, let me start looking in Atlanta. And I had some opportunities here. And then I actually heard that there was going to be a change here at Serenbe. And I said, here it is. This is fate. And I started talking to Steve and Garney, and it worked out. And I didn't even hesitate. I mean, I literally got in my car, I drove here.
That's great.
And then I started looking around. I was originally going to buy a house in Motto. And then I thought to myself, if I have to see people.
You couldn't do the Steve role.
Well, I could see Steve. I could see Garney. I could see all of you guys, but it's the French fries are cold people, and we had a bad experience people on a Monday. Yeah. When I just need to disengage. It's tough.
Totally.
So we moved to Peachtree City, bought a great house over there for so little. I mean, when you leave California and
I know.
We sold our house. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 700 square foot home with a little child running around and a nanny. And it was a mess. Yeah. And we sold it for, it was crazy, almost $1 million,
I know.
And now we come here and it's literally it's half the price or less.
Yeah. I know we talk about reverse sticker shock.
Yeah. And I think, the hard thing for me was leaving California was not hard, but it was the people. How could you leave San Diego? How could you leave the beach? How could you leave the weather? It was so easy. Yeah. Because it's always sunny here, even when it's raining, it's sunny here. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I really don't like talking about myself all that much. I like talking about experiences though. And I've been back here a year and a half. And it's the first time I can say in my lifetime that I'm happy to come to work every day. And that's a fact.
That's amazing.
is something that is priceless to me.
Yeah, I think more people don't have that experience, and they really should. I don't know how to solve that for them, but I mean, it is a joy if you have a purpose in your career. So talk a little bit about, or maybe Steve can tell us a little bit about the vision when you kind of brought Nick back in, of what your thought was, because now you're starting to open more restaurants than just what is here. And sort of, do you want to talk a little bit about that and the vision for the future?
Well, we realized that as we were growing and had more restaurants, that we needed an executive chef to oversee all the restaurants. So while the Farmhouse would be the base, and Nick was really the person who could bring that into a fine dining experience, but with the idea that it was the upscale Southern Farmhouse. While Nick left, a piece of Nick always remained, because we continued to serve his pan-fried chicken for lunch and dinner, and it was missing Nick. So he brought that. He brought that. He came
Martha
back
gave me a call and said, "What's up with the fried chicken?"
That's right. Martha Stewart called it her favorite fried chicken anywhere. But and so it was to really bring the Farmhouse back into that really special restaurant, but then to oversee our other concepts. So we had the Hill, and to bring that really back into a continental mid-range, and then of course the Daisy, he knew that well, and then we were getting ready to open the new Halsa restaurant, which is health, and so Nick totally has orchestrated that, and we have other plans, Italian and some other things, to where we'll be building a number of restaurants out as we build Serenbe out. So it's great to have someone overlooking and making sure that everyone stays in their own defined area of concept, and not and not bleeding over. Because sometimes you'll get a competitive edge with chefs, and they forget where they are. They're going to do this and that and the other.
That's definitely the hardest part. You want to allow them enough creativity to thrive, yet control their urges to go outside it's kind of a boundary that we have. We're lucky. I mean, it has been not an easy situation, but easy is never good. I mean, easy, if it was easy, then I don't know, I'd probably be working for dropping off packages for Amazon Prime or something. So
managing people is always the chore, but you do a great job of that. People really respect you. And
thank you. I mean, do you have to? I learned that from you. You got to give it to get it. I went through those phases as a chef of being the berater, the belittler, the screaming guy who made people feel terrible. And then a quick story. First time I was ever in the paper, it was in Savannah. I was a sous chef, and it was a big deal. Chef Nick's in the paper, blah, blah. And I was a real jerk back then. I mean, I have to say, looking back on it, it was not my finest moment. And then my boss came to me and say, "Hey, you might want to think about how you're treating people, because somebody burnt your face off the newspaper that's on the bulletin board." Ooh. And that hurt me big time. But at the same time, it really woke me up. And that was really the last kind of straw for me being that way. And then I try to nurture people to not be that way as chefs, because you don't get anywhere with people by making them feel bad. I'm too easy sometimes. That's a fact. I have way too much love for people. I'm a man of the people. But here at Serenbe, that's kind of allowed, in a big corporate job, you can't be that. You have to be cold hearted and, cut, see you later. You don't have to consider the fact that other people have feelings and families. And, this is, I can't even believe this is real, to be honest. I told Steve recently, I said, this is my forever place. And I meant that.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
That's great.
They'll bury me out in the field out there in the wildflower meadow. That'll be my little headstone landmark there.
So now we have that on tape.
That's a contract.
Use that against you. Watch out.
Yeah.
And also share, we have the farms here, and there's always been that relationship, and you really moved that forward into a new place. You might share what you did with the farmers and the chefs.
It's easy to be in the kitchen and not think of what's outside. It's easy to just pick up the phone and call a company and say, "Hey, bring me this lettuce that comes from California, and we're in Georgia. And meanwhile, we have a farm here growing it. I just actually ordered 30 pounds of lettuce from Farmer Ian today. To be able to have that, I mean, we literally, with Garney's help, kind of dragged everybody over to the farm. And chefs don't like to leave the kitchen. I mean, we sure like to hide back there. Okay. And now the guys are like, oh my God, look at those radishes that we got. And we really have integrated ourselves into that whole thing. And now we're actually doing composting. And it was the easy, we put a composting plan into place recently, within the last 2 weeks. And the negative in me was like, you know what, these guys are just going to hate it. They're going to revolt against it, and they're going to not do it. And I haven't heard a peep.
That's great.
And I've seen a lot of buckets going to the farm.
Yeah.
So that means that people actually know that we have a farm here. Well, they know Ian. Ian's a great guy. He's really easy to talk to. And they all feel like we're part of the same family now. And that's a beautiful thing. And this spring, I think, is going to be a banner year for us. Here. I mean,
so you actually take the chefs to the farm and walk the farm with Ian and look at it?
We do it. We meet there on Wednesdays. The first week we had beer. And then I decided it probably wasn't a good idea because we stayed there. And then we all felt, we were hungover by 6:30, you know, so, but yeah, it's been great. It's more of a natural thing rather than forced.
Right.
And do you discuss with Ian some of the things you would like him to plant that you would like in your future menus? Yeah,
we do. We actually we had a meeting of that and a plan in place for him to kind of, it's like he doesn't understand totally what we do, and we don't understand totally what he does. So we kind of met in the middle, and we said, hey, this is what we would use. This is what we need. This is really what we need lots of. And it's going well.
That's great.
The fact that I ordered lettuce today in December, I don't think I've ever done that before.
Yeah.
And that's just a testament to how much work has been done.
Yeah. He's got these beautiful greenhouses and some really great
He's passionate.
produce.
I mean, that's really what it's about. It's about waking up in the morning, and even if it's 4 a.m, and getting out there in the field. And I know in August, it was hard. I mean, it was, we all suffered. That's one thing. Chefs and farmers, we have the same experience when it comes to summers in Georgia. It's brutal.
Right.
But that's what makes fall so nice,
Any surprises, any surprise requests, any interesting things that he's growing or that you've made requests for?
Everything we've requested, he's given us.
Or even future.
He's really upped the game as far as the mushrooms over there. I mean, I didn't know that shiitake mushrooms grew in 3 days until I met Ian. Because that's how that's how I am. It's just, I'll just order them and they'll come in on a truck. Who knows? And then he's going to grow artichokes there, which I love. I cannot wait to see them. I'm a little tiny bit skeptical, but knowing him, I know he'll bring me. I mean, he's very tenacious about things, and so that's a cool one. And then just the quality of the stuff that's coming in is so good. I mean, I get. I'm a true food person. I get excited over vegetables. I mean, you can show me a beautiful steak and I'll be happy, but if I see a radish, that's perfect. Yeah. Carrots that he's been delivering. I mean, these are like, I don't even want to cook them. They're that nice. So yeah, it's become, I think in 1.5 years, we've made great strides. I think there's a symbiotic kind of relationship between all of us now that probably didn't exist before. And I cannot take credit for that. I mean, that's everyone. Sometimes you just have to show people what's outside of the fridge. Yeah. And including me, I've learned a lot.
What about other sourcing? Because we're in the middle of Chattahoochee Hills here, and even beyond, Carrollton. There's some, Fayetteville. There's some wonderful farms around here. Whether that is protein or vegetables, tell us about what you've discovered or what you're excited about.
Oh, lots. I mean, Fairburn, Georgia's got Linda Sharko. I mean, she's like an institution in Atlanta. At first, I didn't know what to think because she's like, come over to my farm. And I was driving around in Fairburn, and it's kind of a bad neighborhood over there. And I was like, where's the farm? What am I doing here? And then there she was waving me down, and it was like in a residential neighborhood. And I said, well, are we going to the farm? Are you going to take me out there? No, she's like, you're at the farm. And it was a vacant lot across the street from her old house, beat up house. And it was this lot behind here, and what she calls guerrilla farming is if Steve has a piece of property that he hasn't seen, and probably impossible for him, but that he hasn't seen in a couple months, a year, 10 years, and I'll just go ahead and plant crops on there and grow. And maybe they'll care, maybe they won't. So that's what she does. She plants on vacant lots and all this. It's really, it's amazing what she does. She's so passionate. I mean, that lady wakes up, I don't even think she sleeps. And I pick up veg from her every week. Okay. She actually texts me a list this morning of what she grows. Nice. I pick up stuff from her, and then she deals with the cheese lady, Decimal Place, which is have you ever heard of Decimal Place? Mm-hmm. So the reason it's called Decimal Place is because they started it on 1/10 of an acre in Atlanta in the city.
What a cute name.
And Decimal comes from her husband, who's the controller for Georgia Tech. Oh. So they're doing cheese. They have goats, and I'm using their feta right now.
Oh, great.
At the farmhouse. And I buy about 15 pounds a week from her, and she'll text me, 3 a.m. and say, hey, you need cheese? I'll text her back at 3:06.
Yeah, no, well, I think sourcing is interesting because I think as we have Rodale coming and you're here and more people are moving in, thinking about, sitting in Chattahoochee Hills where Serenbe is, what other sort of aspects of the culinary economy maybe, or the agrarian economy, do you see? I know, so the Rodale Institute is really one of the pioneers of organic agricultural research. And we're thrilled to have them open one of their first research centers here in Chattahoochee Hills. I think it's going to be called the Southeastern Organic Research Center. And their goal is to not only support farmers, but grow farmers and really, really push for more organic and regenerative agriculture. But I love the idea of there's just we were talking off a minute ago, we've both been to Paris recently, having the little bake shop, the little boulangerie or a cheese shop. Do you think those things are possible? I mean,
that's the question. And that's the beauty of Serenbe is that we can gauge that and we can do it. It's not like we're looking for people outside we're starting to figure out, I think, what we can do and what we need. But we can also do additions to businesses that already exist.
Well, the beauty is we are developing a market for people that appreciate fresh, good food. And so this is a foundation, whether they come in under the Serenbe umbrella or if they locate in the area and market what they're doing to us. And that's the real hope, is that we really reestablish the agrarian economy. Because what's happened is big ags, big grocery stores. We've removed that sense of a regional agrarian economy, and that's one of the problems with rural America today. Is we don't have that sense of community in everything that's around that. And hopefully, here at Serenbe and the Chattahoochee Hill Country, is we can reestablish that, and that's what's starting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve and I discussed last year that we would love to make this. It's hard. The hardest part here is finding people to work. People that are, don't live around the neighborhood. I mean, you don't have 500 cooks living within the. We'd love to be able to bring kind of a learning experience here for young people that want to pursue, whether it be farming, whether it be culinary, arts, front of the house type situations where we could. I mean, this is crazy, but I'd love to house them and, teach them and have some kind of, they could actually get credit for it somehow.
Sounds like you're talking about a culinary school.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to, culinary schools have a negative connotation these days. I would say it would be more like an overall experience for people that they could kind of figure out what they wanted to do at the end of it. Do I want to be a chef? Do I want to be a farmer? Do I want to be in real estate, selling real estate? I mean, when you pigeonhole people, especially young people, into especially, the advent of celebrity chefs and, Food Network and everything's a game show, that you've really lost the actual focus of what it was all about. I mean, I did a recruiting trip at the Culinary Institute of America a few years ago, and it seemed to me that these kids had the vision of all becoming famous chefs, and that's not how it is, and culinary schools just turn them out. I don't want to be a place that churns out people with a piece of paper that says they're something. It should be an organic experience that, that it's comes from within.
Well, and I think that this past year, if I recall, we had a woman that worked on the farm, and then she also worked in the farmhouse part-time, right? So she kind of was able to get both sides of that experience and really understand where that food, the vegetables were going, and then vice versa, where they were coming from. So I remember she loved that. And I think that model is a great one that I know, Steve.
And we've had theater interns that have worked in some of the food establishments. And so there's a lot of things happening. It kind of be
it's already happening. We have people. I mean, there was a young lady who was at one time, she was a bartender at the Hill, and now she's selling real estate. I mean, this is, like I said, it's a place unlike any other where you actually have the open mind and people running it that say, hey, maybe you don't like this, but maybe you'll like this. I mean, we're pretty good at holding on to good people.
Yeah.
But I share Nick's vision and the idea that we could actually formalize it more and actually have housing that we could offer to where we really brought this into sort of maybe we would call it, a certificate in passion.
That's right. I like that.
And we funnel it into the passions of the arts and the culinary arts. And
I mean, I had a spiritual awakening when I came back here that is probably not possible anywhere else. I mean, I was. Can I share a brief story?
Of course.
I was on a bunch of medications when I came back. Some of them probably not great. Some of them good for you, according to some doctors that don't really care. I don't think doctors have become people that just write a prescription for everything instead of actually looking into the root cause. And I remember it was an event going on at the Farmhouse, and I said, Steve, I'm having some kind of crazy awakening here, and I'm not going to take these medications anymore. And he said, well, good luck. He was very understanding. And honestly, I was taking 3 meds, some antidepressants and things that, things that obviously I didn't need. And then I just cold turkey stopped. I felt like by coming back here, I didn't need that anymore because the stresses that are normally attributed to working in this environment, an environment of restaurants and culinary and everything else, doesn't exist here.
Right.
So, I've been off of those for a year and a half now, and my creativity has just gone insane. So
'cause you're clear.
Exactly.
Right?
So I think if you brought people here for the experience, they would have a totally different outlook on the whole overall industry.
Right. Well, and you're right. It has become, again, seeing it from the outside, very celebrity driven and everything that's going on with all the TV networks. And then, the chefs have these restaurants and they continue to open them up. And you hear, my kids even, watch YouTube videos of these chefs yelling at each other. They think it's hilarious. But it's like, what kind of modeling is that maybe it was happening in the kitchen for whatever reason, but now we're sort of holding it up as okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an older guy now. I've been in the industry a long time. I worked for Gunter Seeger. I worked for Jean Blanchet, who was a very famous French guy who really, really was hard. I mean, he would physically hit you, and but I don't know why. I always went back. I went back for more every day.
Right.
But those days are gone, and for good reasons. I mean, you can't. The amount of depression, drug abuse, alcoholism in my industry is just rampant. You saw what happened to Anthony Bourdain. There's not a lot of mental health care for us. So that's why I came to Serenbe.
They have good benefits.
It's part. No, it's just kind of part of the deal here. That I used to come home from work and Ebony would be like, "You've had a terrible day. I can tell you've had a terrible day." And I said, yeah, it was terrible. I hate my job. I don't want to go back there tomorrow. I need the money, so I'm going to do it. I have yet to tell my wife that I've had a terrible day here. And that's not exaggerating.
That's great.
It may sound ridiculous, but it has been an amazing thing to come back to. I mean, and I feel better. I probably look better. I think I look better.
You look great. We'll put a picture of you.
We have special mirrors here. But I think that, overall health and wellness is alive and well here. And it's very, very rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for it. Oh my God. I can't even express it. Steve.
Well, thank you. We're delighted you're back part of the family. And I think that's what Serenbe represents, that what appears special, and it is special, the sad part is that this doesn't exist other places. And I think 100 years ago, it was a different atmosphere. We had respect for one another and what everyone was doing. And I think that's a big part of what Serenbe is it's that common respect for everyone to be their individuals. And you are a unique individual. And I'm just glad you're here.
Well, I like to think of it as, because there's nothing perfect, but this place is imperfectly perfect. It's has some of the aspects of life outside of there, but I feel like if you don't turn on the news, you have no idea that life can be anything else than this. I mean, that's part of the thing about social media and everything else, is that you still kind of forced to see it. But at the same time, it makes me personally feel very lucky that I have this. I feel like once I enter the driveway here, that I'm in a very safe, kind of special place.
Yeah. And now, through the various ways, the various disciplines, people are coming to visit us, and we're influencing that. And the James Beard Boot Camp is one thing that you work with now, the chefs. Want to share what that experience is like?
That was extremely challenging for me as a chef, probably because I was the oldest guy in the room. And I have a little bit of, I have an older mindset, and these kids now are so way ahead of their time, they're so involved in social justice. And, I'm just trying to get the produce right and make sure that the short ribs are cooked correctly. But it was very enlightening. I thought that it was interesting to hear perspectives of people on beyond. James Beard has gone way beyond just the culinary thing. And, they're actually active in the community and trying to do the right thing, and pushing an actual agenda that is good for everyone. I think not everyone agrees with it. And there are some certain things I didn't 100% agree with personally, but I support the effort 100%, because inaction is the worst thing.
And so for those who are not aware, this is the James Beard Boot Camp, which is through the James Beard Foundation. And they realize that chefs are now celebrities in their communities and are representing the industry. And so they want to make sure that they understand the entire cultural and some of the social issues around food service and
actually using, you have, like Steve mentioned, celebrities. I don't personally think I'm a celebrity whatsoever, but I think that we have a voice, and it's a shame to not use it. As long as it's for the right thing. I do feel very strongly about a lot of what they said about food and the sourcing of it and GMOs and, which goes really along with what we're doing here. We are the example of what they're talking about. I'm just not a big Twitter guy. So.
Well, and I think that's okay. I think, chefs have the opportunity to touch so many people with what they do every day that it becomes an education for the people to understand, because we're voting every day, 3 times a day, if not more, of what we're putting on our plate. And that hugely affects many, many, many things. And as consumers, that's a lot of power. So we should be really thoughtful. And I think chefs are the ones who can start to educate us on.
Well, I think the thing that I personally took away from that was I didn't know that how many people go hungry in this country and are expected to live on just the lowest quality stuff. That the SNAP program is in danger. There's a lot of negative legislation in Washington, D.C. as far as helping people. It's easy to sit up there in your ivory tower and make decisions about people who have nothing, when you're going to go have a steak dinner afterwards. I think it's shameful. And I think that is something that I have tried to kind of get out there. As far as the SNAP programs, they're not just talking about adults. Why don't they get out there and work? These are children that we're talking about. We'd love to see the expansion of good farm-raised food for those folks, and not just, a card that you can just go buy whatever with. Not to tell people what to do, but at the same time, do they have access? It goes right down to my daughter's school, where I go there for lunch with her, and the food that they're serving these kids is not good. So the government's got a long, long way to go. And I think they could use some of what we do here and what James Beard does as a good example of what the right thing to do is.
And Wholesome Wave is another great program dealing with that. And of course, major fundraiser for Georgia. Wholesome Wave is here.
I see him once a year. And he is just, that guy is so energetic about what he does. It's really inspirational.
Yeah, it's incredible what he's built.
And we'll look forward to having him back here this year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Nick. We look forward to coming into the restaurant and seeing you soon.
I've really enjoyed being here.
Thanks for chatting, Nick, and thanks for being you, and thanks for being at Serenbe.
Love you, Steve.
Love you.
Thank you for listening to Serenbe Stories. New episodes are available on Mondays. Please rate and review the podcast and make sure to email your questions for Steve Nygren to stories@serenbe.com. You may even get to hear them on the podcast. More details about episodes and guests are available on our website, serenbestories.com.